What's going on, y'all? And welcome to another episode of Resilient Kings Podcast.
Whoa. Now you about to start some controversy here.
I am your host, Yaron Brown.
Hold on a minute. This is a Resilient King alert. Resilient King alert. You ain't gonna roll past that.
This is Resilient Kings Podcast coming to you.
Let's go.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Resilient Kings Podcast. I'm your host, Yaron Brown. We could not contain everything that Chef Ernie Hines had in one episode, so you got part 2 of this interview. Chef, thank you for allowing me to have this time of yours. You left off at talking about how you wanted something different, how you saw your dad and what he had, and you was like, okay, I think I want to go for this. He told you, hey, you may want to go back to school. The other chefs that were higher than you, that were executive chefs, said you need to go back to school. You decided to go back to school. Tell me what happened after that.
Well, thanks for having me back, first and foremost. Let me just say this. It gets to a point in your life as a young man, you don't always think about your future. But then at the same time, you don't want time to slip by and you never tried to do anything that you set out to do.
Okay.
I just think in life, you should set goals, whether they be long-range goals or short-range goals. But for me, at the stage of my life, all my goals, I write them down and I check them off as I complete them. I don't care if I say I'm going to do 50 push-ups a day. That's a goal. I'm going to drop down, do them 50, and I'm going to check it off.
Okay.
And you feel, it gives you such a feeling of satisfaction because you're doing something that you say you were going to do. And that's just how you got to organize your life as a man, as a king. You know, you have to set forth something in your life and say, I'm going to do this, and try to give yourself a time limit if possible. And there's nothing wrong with extending time limit. Don't extend it too long because time waits for no one.
Absolutely.
So, but you need to start setting goals in your life to say, this is what I want to do. I liked cooking, and I am blessed to say that I'm one of the few people on the planet that actually does something they enjoy doing and gets paid for it. And the work that I do is hard work. It can be thankless work, but you don't make a lot of money in the beginning, but you start to make money as time goes on. But let me tell you something. My biggest payment was when somebody walks back to me and says, that's some of the best food I've ever had. That is one of the biggest rewards. Now, I know I can't eat that, but the feeling of that is just so powerful, so powerful.
So now you work in the hotels, you get your degree. What happens next?
Well, so now I'm in the hotel working. So things started to shift with the hotel. You know, sometimes hotel chains close down and different things happen. So this hotel was going through that. So now I'm looking to work somewhere else, but I want to stay within the industry. So my father happened to be human resources with Marriott at the time. Now, even though, like I said, my biological father, he's in and out of my life. As time went on, it wasn't that he didn't try. He did try, but as I became a full adult, I was like, what's the sense? But then I started to think to myself, you know what, Ernie, come on. He's the father that he's your father. So regardless. So I came to him and said, listen, Dad, I'm into, what I'm into. I'm a chef doing this business, and, hotels getting ready to close down. They doing some transitioning. I said, is there anything that he says, as a matter of fact, the Marriott hotel at the airport is looking for a boutique chef, somebody who does the nice things. So he said, go down there and apply. He said, I'll speak to some people there for you. Long story short, I got the job. Started doing that for a while.
Okay.
I worked with another great chef that was there, and he really took a liking to me. So when I transitioned out of that situation, because when you're in culinary arts and cooking and things, it's a lot of moving parts. Like the turnover can be high. You transition in and out of stuff. So this guy's like, listen, Ernie, Marriott is merging with more institutions like hospitals. So he's like, I'm over at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, which is now a link of, it's called Sodexo Marriott. So it was like, listen, man, I have executive space there for you if you were interested. Of course I was. Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, prestigious. So I go over there, come in as a chef manager and start handling things. Chef manager means, just so for all those who don't understand what that means, chef manager means cash handling. So not only are you a chef, but you're doing cash handling. You have to count the drawer, the bank for the start of the day, and you have to close it out at the end of the day, do tax reports and things like that. So that is chef manager. You learn that on the job. It's not you go for that. You learn that on the job. So I did that for some time. And then he ended up leaving to transition somewhere else. And then I became the top guy there at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, Maine. And I did that for, let's say, 6 to 7 years. And then I became the executive chef of Children's Hospital Abelson Research Center. So that's within the same campus. It was more of a corporate setting. So it was more of a Monday to Friday thing and Saturdays and Sundays off, unless it was a heavy catering for the weekend. And by me having kids, now I can spend time with the kids on the weekend. I wasn't bound by chef work is tough. You work a lot of hours sometimes, and you guaranteed to work weekends. Your Saturdays and Sundays would be like Monday and Tuesday. So I did that. And let's just say this. I was in total, let's say, altogether, Sodexo Mary, about 15 years or so.
Okay.
Children's Hospital, yeah.
Okay. So you put in a lot of time, chef.
Yes, I have.
So I want to go back to something you said that I think is important for a lot of these young kings out here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a level of resiliency that you expressed that I want to make sure that I highlight.
Okay.
You said you and your dad didn't have the best relationship. It wasn't the worst, but it wasn't the best.
Yes.
And you started becoming an adult and was like, I don't need the relationship.
Yes.
Right. And then something changed. What changed for you?
Well, so prior to being Ernie Hines, I was Ernie Woods. So my father, he never married my mother. So, I had a stepdad, like a lot of us have. And for a long time, I put up a lot of resistance with the stepdad. I'm the oldest of my siblings, and I was the problem, still can be a problem to this day, but that was a problem then. But like I said, I just felt like so much of my childhood was lost that he wasn't there to teach me how to fight, tie my shoes, and I carried the resentment for a long time. I wasn't angry with him, but just resented him because he wasn't my mother. And I saw the struggle that my mom went through, and the stepdad that I had, he wasn't my father, even though he tried. He just wasn't my dad. And I wasn't giving him a whole lot of opportunities to be that. However, my father still off and on would try, son, you need to change your last name to Hines. And I'm like, man, I'm a full adult. Like, why? He was like, because you're my firstborn and you need to be, So that went on for a while. And then I thought about it and I was like, a lot of bad stuff is associated with Woods. Prison, drug dealing, all of that was in that bag. And I said, you know what? If I change the name and give, my father what he wants in terms of being Ernest Frederick Hines III, because that's what I became. I said, okay. So he got the lawyer, got my last name legally changed.
So your dad was the one to help facilitate that?
Yes. Yeah. And I, in turn, went with my sons and changed their names.
Wow.
Yeah. Didn't do it with the daughters because, a woman, most likely, unless she goes into a profession that she becomes a super professional, then she would give her last name. Now, both my daughters are nurses, so they may decide to keep that last name, but that's totally up to them. I changed my sons.
So your son's last names are Hines. Yes. Your daughter's last names are Woods.
Yes.
Have you asked them whether? And I'm being nosy right now. Mm-hmm. I'm just being real nosy right now. Have you asked them whether or not they desire?
I didn't really give them the option. I didn't come to them with it because I didn't think it mattered as much. And they were full-grown adults. They had the name for all those years, and I kind of like projected what I felt at one point onto them because at one point I was like, I'm adult. Why would I need to change my name?
Okay.
And I changed.
I think you need to ask him. I think you need to ask him.
Yeah, I can ask, but I just never did. And they was like, okay, when the sons, they brothers, they was like, okay. They
Okay.
was like, all right,
All right.
cool.
All
And they
right.
didn't
I'm
want to do it.
curious. Now I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah.
So you change your last name, basically a new lease on you. You left all that old stuff that's associated with the woods behind. You picked up and started moving ahead with Hines. So this is you change your name when you were at Chop?
Yes.
Okay. So now what in the heck made you get into food trucking if you had this executive job at Chop?
That's a great question. I had been working in the industry for so long for corporate.
Yes.
So I feel like in everyone's life, and this is not for everybody. Like for me, I felt like, okay, what is the pinnacle of being an executive chef? And I felt like either opening a restaurant or opening a food truck.
Okay.
So a restaurant for somebody who's never had a business and who's not business minded first is a tough move because you need to know the financial ins and outs before you make that kind of move. Now,
I
if you
did the
just,
opposite.
yeah, yeah.
So I know what it is. I did the opposite. I didn't know what the requirements were. I jumped in feet first beforehand, and it damn near killed me.
But hey, listen, big ups to you for jumping in because a lot of times people become overnight success by just jumping in and it works.
Yes, and it
Um,
worked.
yeah,
But the hours are, but like it worked up
yeah,
until COVID. It was the hours
yeah,
were crazy. Just starting to get everything set up in the first two and a
yeah.
half years. So
I
yeah.
remember those
So
discussions. I remember those discussions.
yes. So you decide either I'm gonna do a restaurant or I'm gonna do a food truck.
Yes.
What made the food truck more appealing?
Well, what made the food truck more appealing is that I could control the hours. So, in other words, it's like one of them things where you say, I'm only working when I'm moving the food truck.
Okay.
If you have a restaurant, you set the hours, whether it's you working 6 days a week or whether you're working 5 days a week. Typically, you may be closed on a Sunday and a Monday. That's average restaurant business. Um, but you're in there like 14 hours a day. In order to run a successful restaurant, you need to be there. You need to put your stamp on it because if you don't and you rely on somebody else to run it for you, it's not going to be the restaurant that you had the dream for it to be.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was up at 4. I finished up at 8 p.m.
Yes, and it's
So
and if you have a family, that's a grind, man.
man, let me tell you something. That was crazy. It was the
So,
craziest time. It was the craziest time. It had to be one of the craziest times of my whole life running a restaurant.
oh yeah, I'm for sure with
So
that.
so now how did you get Spice the Americas? Where'd the name come from?
Uh, let me see. I'm trying to think where Spice came from. I think one day I was thinking to myself because along with being a chef and working for Children's Hospital, I would also cater on the side on the weekends. Because when
Okay.
I got to the Abelson Research Center, I had weekends off. And I had clientele that was just coming to the hospital and they were like, do you do business on the side? And I'm like, yes, I do. So I started catering different events, weddings, all kinds of stuff on my time off. And then they allowed me to use the kitchen at the hospital on the weekends because it was
Oh,
closed
that was
that
sweet.
side of it. So
That
they
was
let me
sweet.
use it for the facilities and stuff like that, long as I kept everything clean. The name Spice came up because at first I thought about flavor, but then I was like, that's too generic. And then I thought about spice, and I was like, maybe spice is good. So I called it Spice Caterers. Um, the name didn't transition over to Spice the Americas until I got here to Atlanta.
Okay. So now what pulled you from because obviously you successful in Philly.
Yes.
You running a successful food truck in Philly.
No, food truck did not start in Philly.
Food truck did not start in Philly.
No, no.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
So you picked up from an executive catering job in Philly and just decided I'm coming to Atlanta?
Yes, there's a pretty decent backstory on that.
Okay.
So my wife of 14 years, I met her at Children's Hospital.
Shout out the wife because I don't want to get in trouble and I don't want you to get in trouble.
Yes, yes. definitely, definitely. That's my queen. She is my rock. I met her at Children's Hospital, and I had been working for Children's Hospital for a while, and then we lost the account there. Sodexo lost the account, and then I kind of floated for a minute, and then I ended up landing another job at a private school, which was in Windward, Pennsylvania, which was for elite kids. You know, I became the executive chef there.
Okay.
Um, Finished up. So when I had reached 20 years with Sodexo, I said, you know what? It's time to walk away. And the reason why is because I figured I've given 20 years of my life. I can't give anything more. There's nothing else I had to give as an
Yeah.
executive chef. And I said, if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I better do it now before I'm too old and I may not have that same strength and that same zest and zeal to do it.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I made the decision to say, okay, instead of doing a restaurant in Philadelphia, because I wasn't sure the grounds on that, I said, let me open up a food truck in Philadelphia. Because in Philadelphia, you get a food truck, you get a location, you park it, and you go and load it up every day and you start selling food, and it's a beautiful life. So,
Okay.
um, so my lovely wife, who I spoke about a minute ago in this conversation, you know, we were already married, and she was like, you know, hey, I got an opportunity with my company that I work for that's giving me a promotion and a huge raise. She said, the only thing is it's in Atlanta. And I know you just bought a food truck and I know you just walked away from a very good job. You quote unquote retired, but this is an opportunity for me to excel and be more in terms of what I'm doing in my career. So now I'm at a conundrum to say, I'm getting ready to start this business here in Philadelphia. I got the plan, the blueprint, and I had to give that up because I'm like, what my destiny is unknown. Her destiny is already set. She already has a position that was going to give her more and raise her station. So I said, you know what? The reason why a food truck is mobile because you can move it. So I said, okay. I said, all right. This is what we're going to do. We're going to pack up the house. We're going to pack up the food truck. We're going to take it to Atlanta. We're going to do it because you got a guaranteed situation that's going to elevate your status. I said, it's a shot in the dark. I'm gambling with this. I've never done it before. I know what my strengths are. I know what I can do, and I'm at a space in life where I will not fail. It's not that I can't fail. I will not fail. So packed up the truck and then moved it to Atlanta. And then from that point on, me and my wife having a discussion. I said I want to do something different with the name, and we had a discussion about Americas. uh, I learned from my wife that South America is America because we had this conversation where there was an indifference of, oh, you know, you people, these Latin people, but, and she said, what? What did you say to me? You said what? And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. I said, you know, Latin folks. And she said, you mean Americans? I said, what do you mean? She said, it's America, South America. She said, Argentina is South America. It's all the Americas. And I was like, wow, she's right. So I said, you know what? I want to call my brand that. That's my business. Spice the Americas.
So, which is crazy to me, right? Because a lot of people don't ever think about how the Americas, they think about the United States only,
Exactly.
right? Which is a whole nother conversation that we ain't gonna be able to get into.
That's North
But that's
America.
a whole type of brainwashing that
Mm.
exists to only see. Even though we call Central and South America the Americas, when we say America, we only identify the United States, not all of the Americas.
Yeah,
Because no, I don't hear very many people saying, I'm from America, and they say which one,
exactly.
right? Which is a whole another type of brain. But we can't even get into that. But saying that to say, I want to come back to this resilient king saying that I'm going to trust my wife and my partner and where she's going, and knowing that I'm going to be okay regardless because I'm supporting her and I'm gonna be able to do my thing no matter what. Like that's a huge thing that we don't think about. We oftentimes what we do is we expect our mates to bend to our will, but we don't necessarily support them in their endeavors and what they want to do. That is definitely a resilient king's just pew, 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 pew. Like that's it. Like that's one of those that's one of those you gotta highlight. That's one of those you gotta highlight. All right, so you get this food truck. You successful right off the bat in
No,
Atlanta?
no, no. It you have to find your space. So people from Atlanta have a different palate than people from Philadelphia. Because no disrespect to Atlanta. Love Atlanta. I'm here. Love it. But the food scene is different. Because Philadelphia is so close to New York. Not saying that that New York, it's just that sophistication in terms of food, and it's just more of. I find that Atlanta has a lot of chain spaces that people will say, "Oh, this is great. You should try this," and it's a chain,
Gotcha.
and it's different from the mom and pop establishments where you got somebody that's creating the menu on a regular basis. They're creating a menu based upon whether it's farm to table or anything like that, or seasonal menus. They're doing that kind of thing
Oh yeah.
constantly.
Oh yeah. When I was in New York, like you ain't gonna find the same restaurants you find in lower Manhattan, upper Manhattan. You ain't gonna
No,
find the same ones in the Bronx that you find in Harlem. Like they are like one-offs. You may get
exactly.
a couple that are like a little burger spot, but it's only in New York that
Yep.
you're gonna find that burger spot. And it's gonna be at two locations that are relatively close to each other. So
Mhm.
yes. So I get what you mean by that.
So the level, the palette is different. So I had to be able to navigate through that because when I first started my truck, I had, I don't know, 15 things on the menu. And people
Gotcha.
come to the menu and they like this. They, and they didn't understand the concept. So I had to kind of like dumb it down a little bit, not dumb it down for the terms of the food and the quality of the food. I had to kind of shrink it down into like 4 or 5 good items that I concentrate on, that when you come to my truck, you're gonna get these 4 or 5 items, and they're gonna be good. And they're gonna be handmade, homemade. I do everything from scratch. Everything.
With those hands you holding up right there.
You see it. You see it. Okay.
so so starting out, you still grinding, right? You
Yes.
you still trying to figure it out.
Yes.
How many years did it take you to feel comfortable in doing what you do
As a food truck owner,
as a food truck owner?
a little less than a year.
A little less than a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you had to get the lay of the land, find out how you wanted to do it, and now you execute. So let me tell y'all something, just so you know. Now, Ernie ain't gonna say it. The chef ain't gonna say it, right? But he does Atlanta Food and Wine, which is one of the largest events, if not the largest event in Atlanta. They specifically asked him to come out and do this event, right? So I want y'all to know, y'all ain't messing with some wannabe food trucker here. I told y'all earlier that this dude is serious about food trucking and about actually chefing. So they ain't inviting just anybody to Atlanta Food and Wines. So please know that this is the real deal that y'all are hearing from. So Ernie, as we close out our episode,
Mhm.
what are some of the successes and or triumphs, and what are some of the struggles that you had to overcome?
I'm gonna start with the struggles
Okay.
because they're always front of your mind. The struggles.
All right.
So being a food truck owner here in Atlanta in the beginning, I don't think that Atlanta was truly ready to embrace food trucks because there was so much bureaucracy and red tape you had to get to just to do an events. You had to get a permit to be in any section of Atlanta to do anything. And you might do one event and you're charged to do a permit that you may not ever use again. And these were all like health department regulations and things of that nature.
Okay.
And you write it off as the cost of doing business. At this time, when I first started back in 2017. That being said, just getting to have people embrace what you do. Now, because I'm a man of color, and I don't mean this to do disrespect to no other culture, but sometimes people see a man of color and all they think is, oh, he probably can do great fried chicken and collard greens, baked macaroni and cheese. Never wanted to be pigeonholed as that. Now, I do those things very well, but you won't find them on my truck. You
Yes.
won't find them anywhere on my truck. Now, however, if you call me and say, listen, it's Juneteenth, can you put together a soul food menu? Of course I can. But that's not what I'm leading with. That is not what Spice the Americas is. So the downfalls is I struggle with that for some because I'm a black man that's doing empanadas, which is typically a Latin thing. So
Yes.
those are some of
Yes.
the pitfalls.
Yes.
Some of the greatness is that I have endured from 2017 to be able to do events where I've received goose egg, zero. Not one person purchased anything. Anything. And me and my wife stood on that truck for these amount of hours and nobody came by and bought nothing. But it did not make me feel like I'm a failure. It didn't make me feel like I shouldn't be in this business. It made me figure that, well, maybe I need to tweak things. Maybe I need to try harder. Maybe I need to give out some samples. Because I'm somebody that I'm going to find a way because I'm not going to fail. I cannot fail. So, and being resilient and sticking to the plan and say, listen, we're going to keep going out. Somebody calls, we're going to come. So we started doing breweries and all that stuff. And over time, people started sampling the food. They started seeing that, hey, this guy's serious. And then they would eat the food and they would come all the way back before they get in their car and say, Chef, man, that was some of the best empanadas I've ever had. Or Chef, that Peruvian chicken, man, that was serious. Have you been to Peru? Those are the highlights for me. And then over time, people start to recognize you. You start to get elevated status of people calling you. You start doing bigger things. You know, you get people wanting to interview you, like my brother Brown here. And it's just, those are the good things, you know, and the money comes. And I want to say this, I made it through the virus and I'm still in business. A lot of us who started out in 17, they're not around. You know, I wish them all the luck and whatever fortunes that they have coming to them, but they're not in the same business anymore. We're somebody that we were able to make it through. And, you know, we talked with the Browns. The Browns were very instrumental on helping us to get through, to navigate some of the pitfalls that we were getting through. And we were selling food online. We just never stopped. And here we are, 2024, waiting on the World Cup.
That's it. Waiting for it.
Yes.
So any advice you want to give as we close out, anything you want to leave people with? What you said was plenty. Okay. Was there anything else you want to say to the people out there that may be listening to this, that may be trying to figure some things out for themselves? Some young men that are trying to figure some things out for themselves.
Listen, young men or old, the number one thing I can say is never give up. If you have a passion to do something, don't give up. Stick to it. Like, none of us can become who we are for greatness overnight. Don't put a time limit on yourself and say, oh, it hasn't happened yet. You keep working at it. Work at it. If it's something that you have a passion doing, that you like to do, and you see yourself in this space, speak yourself into it. Say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. This is what I'm meant to do, and I'm going to do it. This is how I got to where I am.
Outstanding. Ain't nothing else left to say.
Yes,
This is
sir.
Resilient Kings Podcast with your host, Yaron Brown, and we are out.